Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've done stories recently about cars being towed and what happens if your car gets towed. And usually in America, if your car gets towed because it's like illegally parked, it'll be dragged to an impound lot someplace. It'll sit there for a while. It will incur outrageous fees. And then when you don't pay them, the vehicle will be taken to an auction and sold. Sometimes the vehicles are scrapped. They're scrapped, but usually they sell them at auction. And that's generally what they do, so they can always say, look, we got the most we could for it. We sold it at an auction. But here's an interesting story that both Steve and Graham sent me out of Australia. And understandably, this is Australia, so things can happen differently in Australia. But council crushes car during lockdown 2 days before owner gets official warning letter about the car. ABC Central Coast published this at abc.net.au. Scott Levy, Carolyn Perriman, and Anthony Scully all contributed to the story. But a woman says her legally parked car was crushed, and then 2 days later, she got the official notification saying you need to do something about your car, which is about to be crushed. And then when she contacted them, they said, oh, that happened 2 days ago. So short of inventing a time machine, there's not much she could do about it. Now she wants compensation from the Central Coast Council. She said her 1997 Burgundy Toyota Camry Conquest was parked in a suburban street at Point Claire for 8 weeks during lockdown. So the vehicle was locked, and then it disappeared. She thought, uh-oh, it's been stolen. Now, that's your obvious thing. And by the way, the number of times the police get phone calls saying my car was stolen, only to discover that the car was towed earlier that evening at the request of the police. Happens all the time. So she told ABC, when my son-in-law came home, he didn't see the car, and he asked me where it was. I said, oh, it's out there. And he said, no, it's not. I'm pretty sure it's exactly how he said it too. No, it's not. She discovered the vehicle had been towed by the council after she called the police and wanted to report the vehicle stolen. And they said, well, no, it was towed. It was towed. We found out from the rangers that it had been picked up on the Monday, and they rang me on the Tuesday to say it had been picked up, and unfortunately, it's already been crushed, she said. She said she then received a warning letter from the council 2 days after it had been crushed, saying, here's what you need to do to get your car back to avoid it being crushed. And by the way, apparently, they take things very seriously in Australia when they crush a car. They crushed the car with everything in it. They didn't bother taking anything out of the car. They simply just said, yeah, here's the car, put it in the crusher. So she said, things for my grandchildren, like baby seats and toys, bits of camping stuff that I just leave in there, were in the car. In addition to the notice to owner of abandoned unattended vehicle letter that she received after the event, she was told a warning sticker would also have been attached to the vehicle. Now, that's the thing. If you drive up and down I-75 or a couple other major highways in Michigan, if a vehicle gets left by the side of the road, you will very quickly see that a sticker gets put on the vehicle to indicate that it's on the radar of the police, and they will leave it there untouched for a period of time to let you come back and get it. But after it stays there for a period of time, they will come and get it and tow it. But that sticker will put you on notice of that fact if you see it. The problem is most people don't see their vehicle until they come back looking for it. Now here, she parked the vehicle presumably someplace near where she lives because her son, when he showed up, said, hey, where's your car? Her son-in-law. And so she said that she never saw the sticker. So the question is, was a sticker attached? And if so, should she have seen it? But she said, we did not see any sticker. But then we weren't looking for it either because we didn't think that it was doing anything wrong. And so this is another thing. There are places where you can legally park a car. And to put a car there is perfectly legal. And we all know there's some nightmare stories, New York City, for instance, where you can park a car legally on the street, but one day a week, the car's got to be moved because street sweepers go through. And if you don't move your car on that one day, it gets ticketed. And if you leave it there for too long, they will eventually ticket it and tow it. And bad things could happen to it also, usually auctions and that sort of thing. And so there are also quite often ordinances that may or may not be posted where people park cars. that will say things like, you can park a car on a street where not prohibited, but if a vehicle remains unmoved for a certain period of time, it may be deemed abandoned. And therefore, after a certain period of time, a sticker will go on the window, at which point you've got a certain period of time in which to move it. And if you don't move it, then we will tow it, crush it, or whatever we're going to do in this jurisdiction. So the question is, does that law exist? And if so, was it complied with? She said she didn't see the sticker, but they weren't looking for it. We didn't think it was doing anything wrong. But of course, like I said, that's the problem, is there might be a statute on this. And that's another problem in that in these crazy times in which we live now with COVID and whatnot, there are probably a lot of vehicles that are sitting around unmoved because people aren't going anyplace. And so you need to find out what the law is in your area, or at least go by and look at your car from time to time, make sure it's still there and unstickered. So she said the car had been legally parked a few doors away from her daughter's home. It had a current registration, which was due to expire at the end of this month, and it had a few dings and scratches, but otherwise was roadworthy. So she's pointing that out to say it didn't look like a junked Hulk at the side of the road. We've seen those too. So the Central Coast Council has not responded to questions in an email from ABC this week. It's been almost 3 months since this incident took place, and the woman has had no official response to what she described as a distressing experience. It's very emotional and very upsetting, she said. It wasn't a beautiful car by any stretch of the imagination, but it was really reliable and had done a lot of good service. So I know that I've got a good number of people in my audience from Australia, and I guess the question is that typical protocol for a vehicle that's illegally parked to just take it out and crush it? Or do they take out and crush the ones they don't think will get much money at auction? Or do they not auction cars there? I'm curious about that. But the other thing is, and I don't know why it's reminded me of this story, but I was riding my mountain bike out in the woods of the Keweenaw Peninsula, about 5-10 miles southeast of Copper Harbor. It may not 5 or 10 miles as a crow flies, but a few miles out of town on a logging road with my brothers years ago. And we looked over and we spotted a vehicle kind of out in the woods, just a weird place for a vehicle. And so we stopped and we climbed through the bushes and we found a Buick station wagon just sitting there. And now the Buick station wagon had been scrapped, okay? And it was not an accident that got it there. The car hadn't been driven there. It was towed there. Somebody towed a Buick station wagon and dumped it out in the woods because they just wanted to get rid of it. They could have taken it to a junkyard. Don't know why they didn't, but they did this. So the reason I know that is that the engine wasn't in it, transmission wasn't in it. I think the hood may have been missing, and a few other parts had been taken off of it, like the doors and such. But I remember joking with my brothers, saying, it'd be really funny to do would be to pull the VIN and trace it and contact the last registered owner and go, by the way, your station wagon is out in the woods. Looks like it's been there a while. We need you to come get it and just see what happens. Now, we didn't do that. It was one of those jokes on a hypothetical nature that we were discussing as how funny that would be. And the question, of course, is would the last registered owner of that Buick station wagon still even be around? What? But it was one of those things. But there actually was a VIN tag on it that still had a VIN, but didn't do that. But I remember you just look at this vehicle out in the woods, and we had found it by riding our bicycles down a logging trail. And so somebody had, years and years and years and years ago, dragged this thing out into the woods, off the road, into the bushes, and just left it there. Like somehow that's a good place for it. Yeah, sure. So, but back to Australia where they crush cars because they take this stuff seriously. Council crushes car during lockdown 2 days before owner gets official warning letter. Seems like that might have been out of order. abc.net.au ran the story. Steve and Graham both sent it to me. And it was written by Scott Levy, Caroline Perriman, and Anthony Scully. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. If you are positive, you'll see opportunities instead of obstacles.